Well, that wasn't what I was expecting.
No.
All right. Hey guys. So again, just for the sake of full disclosure, sorry, I told this a few seconds ago. I got in an accident today, so I'm currently on basically bed rest because I really don't want to go to a doctor. So, um,
And I've been burning the candle at both ends pretty much all week, so I'm generally sleep deprived.
yeah, this is the third movie I saw 3 days in a row, and all three were over 2 hours long. So by the time I got movie three, I'm like, I just want to go home.
I'll
And
I
then I
did
got my wish in the worst possible way. Uh,
I did think about seeing another movie after this, but then I realized, that's going to be long. I won't be able to get home on the cheap if I see another movie today.
yeah, Tar is a weird double feature for this one. Uh,
It, I'll probably, if I have Tuesday off, I'll see that on Tuesday because it's discount day.
there you go. That's a spirit. So yeah, we saw Triangle of Sadness, which is a movie by an Artur director whose name I don't know. Uh,
I couldn't quite catch it either.
so I'm just gonna say right at the bat, there's gonna be a lot about the movie I don't know, quite frankly, because the only one I recognize is Woody Harrelson. So,
Same. Uh,
uh,
I didn't really recognize any of the cast except Woody, who has a brief role.
but he makes the most of it when he's on screen. Uh,
Oh, he chews the scenery with the best of them.
oh yeah, love him. Love Woody Harrelson. Anytime I see Woody Harrelson in anything, I get excited. But yeah, so this is a weird fucking movie.
It's not as weird as Men,
No,
which I had to remind myself. Yes, that was earlier this year.
no, but I think this is one of those movies like I personally like I feel like I understood Men more than I do
Really,
than I do this movie. Like I can tell what point that was making. To an extent, I can tell at this point this movie was making too. But it definitely kind of meanders a bit more than Men does. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing because it's clearly the intention. So it's a case where I've honestly have had over 24 hours to think about it, and I don't know if I like this movie or not. It's that weird spot.
I've had about 4 or 6 hours to think about it. I caught a 3:30 showing of it this afternoon, and I I told you this off camera. The most I've been able to process are two initial takeaways.
Mhm.
One, if you pay attention, this movie tells you very early on what it's about because of a particular song that is hummed by a fashion casting person, uh, and I I thought that for a capitalist product, which movies are in many cases, unless they're made for propaganda purposes, uh, that it had a lot of commentary to not all of it flattering to say about capitalism as a whole.
True. Like as I kind of discussed with you off camera, yeah, like just because it's a capitalist product does not necessarily mean it's follow capitalist ideas. It is one of those catch-22s where the only way to promote a anti-capitalist message on a wide range is to follow the rules of capitalist structures. Uh, like Sorry to Bother You is another great example too.
Yes.
Um, of that same kind of thing, of very anti-capitalist, very like anti-corporate. But at the end of the day, although I'd say that movie's probably more expensive than this one was. Uh,
Yeah, because that movie has a higher concept twist than this one does.
yeah, and like bigger actors involved.
Yes.
But which phenomenal movie by the way, if I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a good movie. I've seen it once, and that high concept twist still kind of gives me nightmares a little bit.
oh yeah, that was the case where I made a bet with somebody once. I was like, if you can somehow guess the twist of this movie, I will pay you $20. Easiest $20 I ever won. Uh, So yeah, Triangle of Sadness is basically boils down to fucking rich people.
Rich people getting their comeuppance.
It's not just coming up getting their comeuppance, because that kind of goes on the third act of the movie, which goes into spoilers, so I'll wait a little bit before getting into that. But yeah, basically it's just about sorry, I spaced out there for a second.
It's okay.
It's basically about just like the vanity that money eventually creates. Because after a certain point, you don't need to actually do anything. You can just pay somebody to do everything for you. Like once you have enough money, everything else just becomes a service and not actual people. Which needs to be like,
which I empathized with. Sorry, I left my internet window open.
How dare you?
Which as somebody who works in customer service, I empathize with the crew for the second chapter.
Yeah.
Especially that deck stewardess who was trying very politely to explain to a customer who wouldn't take no for an answer that she couldn't stop working because she was working.
Yeah, well, like that's in the trailer, so then that's not giving anything away too. But yeah, this is like the trailer. I won't say the trailer misrepresents the movie because it doesn't. It just makes it feel like it's a little faster paced than it actually is. This is where it's a slow burn. It takes sweet ass time.
And it's separated into 3 chapters.
And it's separated into 3 chapters, which are pretty easy to identify which is which. It is interesting, kind of the main characters in the first act kind of stop becoming the main characters from Act 2 onward, like a little bit in Act 3. But it is kind of interesting to just see how it becomes from like this movie about this model couple who have massive insecurities and don't know what they're doing,
and are very vapid and shallow and don't communicate very well. They have issues that seem to be interfering with their growth as people and as a couple.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, starts off with them, but then they get on this cruise ship, and then suddenly becomes an ensemble piece of all these rich pricks. One who is like a very Russian pro-capitalist, who just kind of brings up communism on a whim just to talk it down, basically. One of those kind of boomer energy. There's another older couple that are weapon manufacturers. There's other people that we don't really hear their story. There's one woman in a wheelchair who I guess had a brain injury, so she can only speak in German. Was it?
She could only say 1 or 2 phrases in German.
Right. Okay,
she can understand what other people say, but she can't linguistically communicate very effectively because she had a stroke.
Yeah. So we spent a good amount of time with these people on this cruise ship, which is just destined to fail. And again, that's not giving anything away because it's in the trailer. Although I can effectively say that they did get me with the red herring for what happens with that sequence. And I'll get more than that into spoilers, but how it actually ends up crashing got a pretty big laugh out of me.
I can't wait to hear that because I think some of that may have gone over my head a little bit, but we'll get to that.
Sure. Yeah. So then, of course, third act is when the cruise ship crashes and they're on the island, and then the bunch of rich people have to learn that their money isn't going to get them anything at this point. They actually have to learn how to be people and survive and be work together and yada yada yada.
The third act, the acts get progressively longer, by the way.
2.5 hour movie, so
yeah.
Strap in.
The third act is more reminiscent of Survivor.
I could see that. But all of it kind of plays into this critique on, like you said, capitalism, and government, and again, just how if money buys power, then that will and that's the only thing keeping your power, then it will eventually corrupt.
Hmm.
Which again, that also in the third act, which we'll talk about again to spoilers. But like on the whole, this is kind of again kind of a hard movie to talk about because even though like it sounds pretty straightforward when you explain it like that, the action movie really just kind of ebbs and has a really weird vibe. It kind of ebbs and flows in a very off kilter way.
Yeah, I I don't know how I feel about it yet. I did not see the trailer before seeing this today. I had heard it mentioned. I know that it's made its way through the film festival circuit and that is getting some praise for originality, which I
It
can
is
see
that.
that.
Yeah, it is very much that.
That I I didn't know exactly what to expect, but I didn't expect what I got.
Yeah, neither did I. And I saw the trailer, so at least I had some idea what was going to happen in the plot. And like its social commentary is interesting and it is well written, and the social satire elements I think do work well. And so I'm trying to figure out like, well, one, the ending is pretty ambiguous. Uh,
Yeah, I am curious about that as well.
so like that was part of my like kind of feeling like, oh, is that it? Kind of a vibe to it. Which again, like it feels weird because I know all this is, you can tell it's very carefully crafted. And like there's probably a lot of stuff you can cut, but it all still serves a purpose. Um,
There were some scenes towards the end of the second act that while I can see their necessity were a little
you could have cut it.
gratuitous, I thought.
Yeah, you could have cut it.
Hmm.
Sorry, I cut you off there. Uh, but yeah. So yeah, it's kind of a weird beef because I like the themes, I like the writing, and I like where it ends up going up to like the very end, which is kind of lukewarm. But at the same time, it's also kind of like, yeah, but it takes a long fucking time to get there. And it felt like this could have been a little tighter. And like just really focus on that pace and a bit more, make it more concise.
Hmm.
Because the satire is sharp. The
It
criticism
is.
is very sharp.
I mean, of the movies we've reviewed recently, this is uh, tiers above the last two we've talked about.
Yeah, very true. Like I would say this is definitely better than Amsterdam.
Yes, it's better than Amsterdam. It's better than Don't Worry, Darling.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. So like I like what it has to say. I think I just wish it went through one more pass with an editor. And I feel like I really given like you could have shaved like 10-15 minutes off this, probably would have been better for it.
Probably, yes.
Maybe more. But that being
I'd
said,
say
like
20.
yeah, but like when things get crazy, they really get crazy, and it's really kind of it works as a almost like a fascinating social experiment.
Yes. Hold on one
When you get,
second.
oh yeah,
Okay, sorry.
no worries. But yeah, when you get that whole section with Woody Harrelson, and again, without giving anything away right now, like the extremes to which it goes and then abruptly stops and then goes again, it's like just Jesus Christ. Talk about when the shit hits the fan. Haha. Uh,
And everything else.
yep. Yeah, this is one of those movies I feel like you just kind of have to see for yourself and make up your own mind, which I know is not a good thing for a critic to say. But it's one of those movies that's like, the more I talk about it, the more I appreciate it. But I don't think I'd ever watch it again.
It's definitely a film with something to say, and it says it articulately, and it's it, it's visually colorful. I like the cinematography. I like various choices, but agreed. I don't think this is a movie that I ever have to watch again either. And that's not to its discredit, because I know I've said that recently about Amsterdam.
Mhm.
Quite the contrary. There are some movies that I've seen since we've been talking about movies that from years ago that I haven't seen since, and I don't have to
Yeah.
because they were that affecting.
Yeah.
And I think this movie is one of them.
I could see that. Yeah, honestly, I kind of agree with that. Like I don't think I felt it like as strongly as like say The Hunt, for example.
Exactly. Same.
But I would put in that category as like, okay, I see the point, I acknowledge the point, I respect the point. The point has been made, and I never need to rehear it again.
Precisely. Yes.
Yeah. So take that for what it's worth. It's a very interesting experiment. It's a very auteur film, and if that's your jam, I would recommend it, if only just to like test your palate, I guess.
And it's definitely a change of pace from the blockbusters and schlock that we've gotten the past few months.
It's certainly a lot different than Black Adam.
I've decided I'm gonna wait to stream that with my partner. I don't need to spend money on that.
If you must at all.
Well, he wants to see it.
Fair enough. Then I understand. Do what you got to do. I'm single, so I can say no. Even though I didn't, because I still made Muha see it.
Well, I guess they were your date.
I guess in a way. At this point, there's got to be some subsection of fans that think we're a couple.
I do enjoy your banter with them.
We do have very good banter. It's kind of like how our neighbors thought me and Howard were gay, which I just found out today. Our next door neighbor here, I guess, ran into Howard in the elevator, and it's like, so how's your partner? It's like, partner? And I'm like, it's fair. I could see where she got the assumption. We are basically a married couple. Same with me and Muha. We're basically a bickering old married couple.
Yes.
Yeah. And at this point, we know it. We acknowledge it. We make jokes about it. Anyway, I'm going on a tangent here. Spoilers.
Spoilers.
Let's go into spoilers. Okay. Yes. So the twist of this is that the trailer heavily implies, the movie heavily implies, that the ship crashes because of a storm. Like, they do a lot of build-up that everything's going catastrophically wrong, that everyone's wearing life vests, everyone's struggling to like stay afloat. The ship is literally filling up with shit water. Everyone's puking. Like, the captain is drunk as shit. He's making like communist monologues on the airways with his drunk Russian communist friend. And so all this is going to hell in a handbasket, but turns like, no, it's fine, just pirates blew it up.
Using a grenade, which the weapons manufacturing couples pick up, and the wife says, oh, is this one of us?
Yeah, but even then, like, even the way it's shot was very comedically timed.
Yes.
Again, like, there's like a good 20 minutes of the sequence where it's implied like just everything is going to go horribly wrong because of this storm happening, because they were all idiots, and because no one can pilot the ship because everyone's throwing up and everyone's sick because of food poisoning.
And everybody got food poisoning because the rich Russian lady I alluded to earlier insisted that all the ship employees, all the crew must go for a swim, and the chef under deck in the kitchen warned that the food was going to be bad if the cooks stopped cooking it.
Yep.
Nobody listened to reason because a rich person had to have their way and couldn't take no for an answer.
Yep. So they have all of these pieces set up, all of these pieces aligned very carefully to suggest that this is where everything's going to wrong. Most people on the ship are going to die, but then it doesn't happen. It just kind of just carries off to morning. Everyone's fine. The next morning, it's like, oh, here are pirates. Here's a far shot of the ship. It just fucking explodes. That's it. All of that. It would have happened no matter what. Now, there's something very funny to me to that about something very funny about that to me. It was very convincing red herring.
And it was. I found it to be mildly anticlimactic for all that buildup. I honestly thought it was going to be like a survival of the fittest thing on an unmanned ship for a bit, and then no, oh, let's just blow it up.
See, that's what I like about it, though. That's what I think is funny. Is the fact that it is building that up, but like the fact that it's anticlimactic, it's kind of subverting those expectations, in a way that's very comedically shot. So like there's no way that's not intentional. Even the way it is almost like a Looney Tunes cartoon, where it starts with like even like what's I'm looking for, the acceleration from the initial grenade of the two old people finding is like, oh, what is this? Is this one of ours? Little tiny poof from far
Yes.
away. And all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, for no fucking reason, just boom, the whole thing just explodes. Like a fucking Wile E. Coyote cartoon. Just
Yeah, you do have a point there.
so
I'll grant you that.
Comically explodes in this massive degree, and there's only a handful of survivors left, including the model couple, the rich communist, the rich capitalist, and like one of the actual pirates who poses as someone from the engine room, and the woman who can only say 2 words, like 2 or 3 words, or 2 or 3 words.
And the custodial manager
and the Filipino toilet manager, yeah,
and like the third in command of the crew.
Yes. So what was the alpha female's name? I forget her name.
Abigail.
Okay. So there's this woman named Abigail who's literally the toilet manager on the ship. She comes in like an actual just fucking submarine, pretty much.
The one lifeboat that she managed to commandeer, I guess.
Yeah, and that happens. She happens of all these resources, and she's the only one that knows how to like fish and hunt and like make a fire and all those things. She's the only one with actual survival instincts. So she very quickly realized the power she has and completely and immediately exploits that. So then the rest of the movie becomes this kind of commentary of like, okay, now you have this person who had no money, now has all the power and all the resources, and she starts buying people off with pretzel sticks. So now
she creates a matriarchy of the survivors on this isolated island.
Yes, so it kind of uses that to kind of flip the script, obviously, where the rich people are now the people subservient to Abigail. And it gets to a point where like they're doing pretty well. It's not like she has like a tyrant rule over them.
Except one.
Except with the boyfriend, the model boyfriend who she buys sex from with pretzel sticks.
Yes.
Much at the behest of his model girlfriend, who's not at all happy about it. So that's of course where it leads to the ending, where it turns out her and the Abigail and the model girlfriend go through like hike through the mountains, try to see what they can find, any resources like that. And it turns out they've been on a like a luxury
island resort
the entire time. So then the movie ends with Abigail realizing that if she goes back and reveals that what they found, then obviously they're all gonna be rescued and she's not gonna have her power anymore. So the movie hints that, kind of leaves it up in the air whether or not she decides to kill the model girlfriend or not.
And then the last thing we see is the model boyfriend running through the woods.
Yes. We don't know whether or not that's because like somebody told him about the resort, or maybe he suspects that Abigail is going to try to kill her, because at that point, the fact that they've been fucking is like the big open secret.
Yeah. Not very well kept secret.
Yeah, that's what I mean by open secret. Yeah, so we don't really know why it ends. It cuts off right there. We're never given a full explanation either way, so it's left very much up in the air.
I guess open to interpretation, but yeah. I'm not sure how to interpret it.
Yeah, I think, which again is clearly the intention. I just don't know how much it works, because it does kind of feel abrupt.
Yes, and I can understand the necessity for abrupt endings in certain kinds of stories, but I don't always prefer abrupt endings.
For sure, and it doesn't feel like this. Like, I understand why this director in this story wanted to go that direction. I don't think this particular one works as strongly as it should, because it feels like it's almost too ambiguous.
Yes, I could imagine a few ways it could have ended. I could imagine that we assume that Abigail killed Yaya and then went back to camp. I could imagine that she took Yaya's um, offer to become her assistant when they rejoined society. I could imagine that Carl, the model boyfriend, was running away from them both and just wanted to wash his hands of the whole thing.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
true.
uh, there are a few ways this could unfold,
But
but we'll never know.
yeah, which like again is not necessarily negative on its own right. It's more just like how much does it work in the context of the rest of the film.
Yes.
And it feels like at this point it is such a slow burn for such a quick payoff that it doesn't quite work as effectively, especially after watching Tar yesterday, which I won't spoil anything since I
Thank
know you
you.
haven't watched it yet.
Yeah,
But that
that's another movie that I keep hearing about in the Oscar season coverage I've been following.
but that is a case where that also kind of has an abrupt ending, but it serves a grander purpose in its overall narrative. Like it's very clear why we've gotten here and what it means.
Okay, cool.
And the slow burn to get to that point follows a very natural arc that is very meticulously crafted and very meticulously done. So like it's weird following that movie with this movie and because they follow similar approaches. Both don't have really a soundtrack unless the music is like in the moment. This one,
Mm-hmm.
there's one or two times where that happens, but it's pretty rare. Um, and both are like 2.5 hour movies that are very clearly meant to say something and build up to something. So maybe one reason why I'm unsure about this movie is because I saw just a better way of doing it like the night before. Um, but yeah, it wasn't. I wanted it to work for me more than it did. Um, because again, I think the social satire is very sharp. I always will appreciate. Well, not always. Like I do appreciate the deconstruction of just pure vanity that wealth tends to bring, in a way that is both cartoonish but feels more grounded than the typical portrayal we tend to get.
Yes,
But it just doesn't come together in the complete package that it should.
I'd say it's a near miss for me.
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
I it almost comes together, but not quite.
Yeah, no, I agree. So it's like all the pieces are there. It just needed a bit of rearranging and a bit of cutting.
Yes.
And it could have worked really, really well. As is, I like now that I'm talking about it more, I still say it's a good movie.
Yes. I agree. It is a good movie. Like I said, one of the better movies I've seen in the past few months.
I just wouldn't call it great, at least not for me personally. Although granted, if you like Artur films, you might walk away with a very different reaction. So
I do typically like auteur films. As
I was using the royal U in that case, just FYI. But hey, go
I
ahead.
know.
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. It's interesting. It's different. It has good bones. I just don't think it's one that I have to see again.
Yeah. So I feel like that's all we have to say about this. Honestly, we talked more about it than I thought we were going to. So
Same.
so yeah. I'm obviously not gonna see any movies anytime soon right now. So luckily we pretty much caught up everything that's came out this week anyway. So
I'll probably try and see Tard and until next week.
oh, does Till come out next week?
I think it's coming up tomorrow, at least down here anyway.
Is it? Shit. Okay, then I guess I do have to see something next week. All right. So yeah, until that's all we got. The Scott Pilgrim video is out right now. And it's doing very, very well. Thank you all of you who watched that and have pushed as much as you can. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. I think it turned out pretty good. And we're hoping to release another one, hopefully next week. On my birthday, so we're gonna find out if that works out or not. But
I was wondering what you're going to be doing for your birthday.
well, apparently healing is one of them. I have some D&D plans,
Nice.
and a massage, which is now very necessary. yeah, I think that's all we got to say about that. Until then, thank you all for watching. See you next time.